Welcome back to Let's Talk About It with Sons and Daughters. This week we have another exciting conversation with you guys. We are joined with Mattie Montgomery, who is an amazing man. He's one of the funniest guys that I know. He's actually been in a screamo band, as crazy as that is, and also it looks like he could be Aquaman's brother. But he leads an amazing church out in Tennessee called The Altar. And we're so excited that you guys are able to dive deeper and hear from Mattie Montgomery, because he talks about today as worship is not being just a song, but actually being a lifestyle. This was something that challenged me, and I hope it challenges you guys. So please enjoy this episode, and here it is.
Hey guys, we are here with the one and only Mattie Montgomery. It's a pleasure to have you here on the velvet chairs.
Thank you so much. I'm glad to be here on the velvet chairs.
So first and foremost, we know that everything we see with the Rise event was because we saw a need that needed to be met, and we just want to know what the heart behind Altar Conference and what the need going forward is for everyone coming.
Yeah, everybody calls me an evangelist, and I travel to places and they'll say, Evangelist Mattie's here, he's going to preach the gospel, right? But for the last 2 years as an evangelist, I've been almost exclusively teaching on worship. And I said something that initiated that shift in the focus of my ministry. I said one day as I was preaching, I said, evangelism is what happens when worship breaks out of the secret place. And what I found is that I got good at telling people about God by telling God about God in worship. I'd come into worship and I'd say, God, you're beautiful and you're faithful and you're good and you're merciful. And then I'd be in a grocery store and I'd say, he's beautiful, he's faithful, and he's good and he's merciful. It's the same language. And I find the vocabulary to describe the indescribable God in a place called worship, not in a place called outreach. I never read a tract that I could quote from and tell you, like, here's what God is like, But it's been in the times that I've been lost in worship, lost in awe over the beauty of Jesus, the worthiness of Jesus. Those were the times that I have found the language to describe this God that I serve. And so I think that there's a connection between evangelism and worship. And I think that if we try to release or equip a generation of evangelists who are not first and foremost worshipers, we are going to we're going to have people that all they know how to do is to regurgitate stuff they've heard other people say. But if we can get them hooked on worship, if they can become people of presence, they're going to begin to find that evangelism just pours out of them everywhere they go. It spills out whenever they bump into somebody on the street. Worship is going to become a part of their DNA. And if they can become a worshiper in the grocery store, in the restaurant, in their workplace, on their school campus, then evangelism is going to become second nature to them. And so that really is the heart, the strategy behind the Altar Conference, is to teach a generation to worship.
Okay, well, I want to talk to you about just kind of what's this next steps for you too. As you're kind of moving forward after everything that happens with the conference, what you're doing in the transition of your ministry and changing the name to the Altar, Altar ministry, or just the Altar, right? And just kind of the heart behind that.
Yeah, man. So we're actually, I feel like I love conferences. I'm thankful for them. But ultimately, if we're really good at conferences and really bad at family, our conferences are just going to be window dressing. The substance of the kingdom is family. And, I was not raised in the charismatic church. And so signs, wonders, and miracles, they're pretty new to me. They came into my life when I was already an adult. I was already in ministry. But as I've been exploring the supernatural over the last decade and some change, one thing has been coming back to me over and over and over again, and it's this simple thought that the pinnacle of the Christian walk is not raising the dead, healing the sick, having a sold-out conference, or a New York Times best-selling book. The pinnacle of the Christian faith, the apex of the assignment we've been given by God, is family. And if we do family well, everything else will fall into place. In fact, I'll say it like this: the statistically speaking, the Muslim religion is the fastest growing religion on the planet right now. And in all of my life, I've never met a Muslim evangelist. You know, no one's ever come and knocked on my door and said, hey, here's a tract, let's talk about Allah, right? And I've never heard of a Muslim outreach conference, Muslim outreach event, right? They don't have blow up, playhouses in the yard at the mosque and like invite all the neighborhood kids. They don't do. What they do is they raise their families. And we in the church, we think, no, we've got to do conferences. We got to do outreach events. We have to win the lost at any cost. And tragically, that cost is way too often our kids. And as it stands right now, nearly 80% of Christian high schoolers are leaving the church during their freshman year of college. And it's because they, for their entire life to that point, have seen people that show up on Sunday mornings, pretend to love Jesus, and go home and ignore each other. They've not seen the glory of the kingdom. They may have seen signs, wonders, and miracles. They might have seen big events and amazing anointings and talents, giftings brought to the table, but they haven't seen family. And that is the glory of the kingdom. And so I think what God is calling us into is not to, we're going to continue to do more conferences, but I think that if we do conferences without having community, we're going to be sort of like a boxer fighting with one arm tied behind our back. And so my wife and I, my family and I, my staff and I, we're moving out to Johnson City, Tennessee, to this little city in the mountains of eastern Tennessee to build a campus. And we're going to use that as a place. Obviously, we'll do local worship times and gatherings, conferences, and stuff like that. But that's going to be a place where people that want to live in community, that hear the sound of the kingdom, maybe at one of these conferences, or they read a book, or they came to a concert or an event of mine at one point, and they say, man, that's the sound of home. I want to be able to learn from these people. I want to get around people that live like this. They need to have a place to be able to do that. And so we're moving to Tennessee, man. We are excited to see what God is going to do. Yeah. I said, when God first called us, I tearfully said, I can't pastor a church. Yeah. And he said, that's okay, just raise a family. You're pretty good at that. And I said, all right, I can do that. I'll do that. And so, man, we are excited to raise a family, both biological and spiritual, and to help teach on the reality of the kingdom. Yeah. Not only that, but to help manifest the reality of the kingdom in a world that so often settles for the reality of a church.
Yeah. What would you say to a young person that maybe isn't in that type of community, that's been looking for that like, what would you say to them? What would they need to do?
Well, there's essentially two things, right? You either stay or you leave.
Yeah.
And I would say to them that I think the most godly thing you can do is to press harder into the relationships that God has already put in your life.
Yeah, that's good.
And the danger is, I like Mattie, or I like whoever, I got to move to where they're at and go to their church because their church is going to be great. But the truth is, if you're not connected, committed, and serving at your church, you're probably not going to ever get connected or committed or serve at our church either. And if you're living at your church, just showing up on Sunday mornings, ignoring everybody, looking down on everybody, criticizing the pastor, talking about the worship band behind their backs, and and all these things, and talking about how you could do it better, and these, you're going to show up to our church and bring the same thing, and I promise you that's not going to fly when I'm around.
Yeah.
And so I think for me, I haven't learned much about how to preach good sermons by being in community. What I've learned by being in community is how to love imperfect people.
Yeah.
And that makes me a better minister in every regard. It makes me a better leader, makes me a better husband, a better father, better friend. And so if you want to learn how to preach good sermons, just watch T.D. Jakes on YouTube, watch John Bevere on YouTube, right? You can just take notes on other people. There's books in the bookstore on how to preach a good sermon. Yeah. But to be in committed community, that's where you develop the character of Christ. Yeah. And you only do that when you get deep enough committed to this community to see that the people that are leading this thing aren't perfect. Yeah. Mm-hmm. The pastors, the leaders, the youth pastors, the volunteers, all of these people have stuff. They're all on a journey. They're all walking this thing out. Yeah. And so many people, they get a little bit committed, and then they realize these people are just people. Yeah. And then they think, oh, the church is full of hypocrites, I got to leave and go find another one. If they show up to my church and they think, oh, Mattie's going to be the answer, they're going to find out real quick, I'm not the answer.
Yeah.
The answer is Jesus, learning to trust that Jesus has put you where he's put you on purpose, and to be committed there to loving those people just as much as Jesus loves them, even in spite of their imperfections, even in spite of their flaws or their failures, to say, I'm going to love you because that's what Jesus has done to me. And I think that kind of commitment to a local church community, to a body of believers, is going to make us individually better, even if that body of believers has flaws, even if they have issues, even if the preacher is not good and the worship leader can't hit a note to save, to save their life. Like, to be committed to those people in spite of their shortcomings, that is the ministry of Jesus. And I think that's what we need more of, especially from young people in the church.
And you're leading worship at your new church, right?
Oh, God, no.
Every Sunday.
I'll be screaming at no, nobody wants that. Man, I'd rather plug in an iPod. Nobody wants that.
Exactly. No. Well, I love that. And I love, Mattie, like, honestly, we've seen so much of your heart and your heart for this generation and the people that God is placing around you. And, we're full support and, like, with you on everything that you're doing. And it's been cool just to see the effect and kind of the intertwining that God has brought our two worlds together. And so we appreciate you having us here. We honor you, seriously, and we're excited for this next season. And if you guys want to know more about Mattie, please look him up. Please look up what he's going to be doing in Tennessee. If you're around that area, go check out what they're going to be doing in Johnson, Tennessee.
Johnson City.
Johnson City, Tennessee.
Yes.
So we love you guys, and until next time, we'll see you later. We hope you guys enjoyed this conversation with Mattie. We know that we did, and we loved sitting down and hearing about everything that he is doing in Tennessee. So if you guys have not checked it out, please make sure to look up The Altar so that you can see all of the amazing things that he is doing. Also, if you're new to this channel, please make sure to subscribe, leave us a comment, let us know what things you guys want us talking about, the things you guys want us addressing. We love hearing from you guys of any new things that we can be doing. Also, if you have not become a Sons and Daughters ambassador, please sign up today. If you want to lead people into the inheritance and calling that God has for their life, we encourage you to sign up at sonsanddaughters.tv. You can also find more information about the ministry there. And so we love you guys. We appreciate you guys tuning in. And until next time.